Welcome to the Everything Podcast, and in this episode I am going to be continuing my recap of Once and Future. Obviously in the last episode, if you've watched on audio, it's the last episode that's released. If you're watching this episode on YouTube, I'm not necessarily as sure when it's being released, but I would assume that even so Matt will do the recaps part when they're split into a couple of episodes like this Once and Future is, that kind of he'll do part one and then probably part two the next episode. So let's continue. But before I do continue my recap of Big Finish's Once and Future range, I'm recording this episode on the 20th of February 126. So we pick up with Once and Future, The Martian Invasion of Planetoid 50, which was released in September 2023 and written by Jonathan Barnes. Here's the trailer. The First Doctor arrives in Victorian London amid a Martian invasion, but he discovers all is not what it seems when Missy appears. Soon the Doctor is propelled into a future incarnation, the 10th, but he is not alone in battling Missy and her Martian invaders. The Paternoster gang, Madame Vastra, Jenny, Flint and Strax are also here to assist, but can they offer the Doctor any help in solving his own degeneration mystery? This episode was recorded on the 10th of October 2020, so this is the episode that I alluded to in the part one of my Once and Future recap, when I talked about kind of the Big Finish team behind Once and Future, why they planned it so far in advance because of David Tennant's availability. I talked about that when I was covering the 10th Doctor Adventures, which if you're listening to this episode have already released. If you are watching this episode on YouTube, not quite sure, so it's either been released or will be released at some point soon. Yes, this was recorded on the 10th of October 2020, so a full near 3 years before it would be released, which I think is the biggest gap for a 10th Doctor audio. Yeah, because this was the last one that was released and we've not had another 10th Doctor audio since September 2023. But before I do show you the trailer for Once and Future, The Martian Invasion of Planetoid 50, here's the cast. So we have David Tennant as the 10th Doctor, Michelle Gomez as Missy, Neve McIntosh as Madame Vastra, Dan Starkey as Strax, Katrin Stewart as Jenny, Flint, as well as appearances from Stephen Noonan's First Doctor and Tim Treloar as the Third Doctor. So before I do spoil the events of Once and Future, The Martian Invasion of Planetoid 50, not the shortest title in the world, here's the trailer.
My scanner indicates that you may have been the Doctor at some point, or that you may be in the future.
That's because I'm stuck in a mid-degenerative state, probably.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, Once and Future, The Martian Invasion of Planetoid 50.
I think I must be a future phase.
Mistress, the alarm has been triggered.
Really? Has it really?
No. I simply will not accept it. Something is very wrong.
Now, listen, I have some questions. I want to see if your answers are any different to Jessamine's. Where are we, and when are we?
London, Earth, Victorian era.
But I always wanted a pet lizard. Oh, look. You've not touched your food.
Sorry, have we met? I've a head like Swiss cheese.
Oh. Well, look at you. I was hoping for one of the classics.
Time itself, along with our memories, appears out of joint.
It's them! Doctor, it's the Martians!
That thing's using its heat ray. Everyone out before it burns this place to the ground. Come on!
They're coming. Lots of them.
Because only one Time Lord would ever do something so mind-bogglingly, time-consumingly ridiculous.
Oh, you say such pretty things.
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
Oh, my dear Doctor, you have been naive.
That was the trailer for Once and Future, The Martian Invasion of Planetoid 50, which was released in September 2023 and written by Jonathan Barnes. This release might be my favourite of the Once and Future range, and I will explain in a second, but kind of following on from the theme from part one of my Once and Future recap, that kind of having those combinations that we wouldn't normally get. So obviously we've got David Tennant's 10th Doctor, with Michelle Gomez's Missy, and the Paternoster gang. Obviously David Tennant 10th Doctor era obviously is the 10th Doctor, whereas Missy and the Paternoster Gang being introductions to the 12th Doctor era, so not even in the 50th anniversary special did he meet them, or in the 60th as it turned out, obviously as time when this episode was released, that kind of the 60th hadn't aired yet, but so it's a really nice audio to have within the Once and Future range, to have David Tennant, that kind of the only reason he was able to record was because of the pandemic, as I spoke about in those 10th Doctor Adventures recaps, but which if you are listening to this episode on an audio platform, you should be able to go back and find. The Martian Invasion of Planetoid 50. Obviously, the highlight for me certainly is the 10th Doctor versus Missy. It's amazing. Obviously, David Tennant and Michelle Gomez are both Scottish, both had Big Finish ranges on their own, both really incredible actors, but they'd never faced each other in Doctor Who TV or audio, so it was a very nice chance to have that. And obviously the Paternoster Gang, Missy using them basically to kind of lure the Doctor, kind of, because obviously she knows that they are some of his friends, but obviously the 10th Doctor doesn't know who the Paternoster Gang is, and we heard a bit of that in the trailer, so kind of having the Paternoster Gang kind of recognise the 10th Doctor and kind of learn to trust the 10th Doctor very quickly, especially when they're going off against Missy. But yeah, I would definitely say that if you could only pick up one release from the Once and Future range for Big Finish, I would definitely suggest the Martian Invasion of Planetoid 50 is definitely up there. I think there's another one which I'll talk about later in this episode, which might also be up there, but definitely this is, for me, kind of, as I've talked about before, being a new series fan, and all the main cast in this episode is a new series character that kind of, it's great. But now we're on to the next release, so this is the 6th release in the Once and Future range, and this was titled Time Lord Immemorial, and it was released in October 2023 and written by Lisa McMullen with the following synopsis. Slipping between bodies, the Ninth Doctor finds his TARDIS caught between universes as the cosmos starts to break down. A doctor from another reality arrives and they join forces with Livchenko and the Lumiat to find the cause. Where am I up to? To find the cause. I didn't see the full stop, I got confused. I kind of got confused because I didn't see the full stop and kind of started reading the next sentence and didn't realise it was a new sentence. Someone has desecrated the mythical home of the Time Lord Immemorial, where the sands of time for the multiverse are held, and those sands are running out. This episode was recorded on the 26th of November 2021, so about quite a while before, nearly 2 years before it was released, which for the Ninth Doctor Ninth Doctor audio is a long time. But it stars Christopher Eccleston as the Ninth Doctor, David Warner as the alternate universe Doctor, as well as Gina McGee as the Lumiat and Nicola Walker as Livchenko. So before I do spoil the events of Once and Future Time Lord Immemorial, here's the trailer.
Once upon a Gallifrey.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, Once and Future, Time Lord Immemorial.
What have you done to my console room?
This is my console room. You're trespassing. You're from an alternate universe. Or rather, you are.
We were friends a long time ago. I've changed a lot since then.
What was that?
Degeneration.
You said degenerating is like a sort of reverse regeneration.
Sand. It's pouring through the walls.
Silicants.
They look like an army.
The sands of time are running out.
And they're starting to march.
Time itself is unraveling.
They're gaining on us.
Talk about quicksand.
Right, here goes.
Wait for me!
Oh my, it can't be.
It is. It's the Hall of the Time Lord Immemorial.
The Doctor. Always the Doctor.
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
I'm the Lumiat, Would you mind terribly giving me a hand to save the multiverse?
That was the trailer for Once and Future Time Lord Immemorial, which was released in October 2023 and written by Elisa McMullen. This, before I get on to Time Lord Immemorial specifically, obviously again another great combination, obviously the Ninth Doctor, David Warner's alternate universe Doctor as well as Liv Chenka, who is a companion of Paul McGann's Eighth Doctor, and Gina McGee's Lumiat, who is basically what would happen if all the good inside the Master kind of materialised into one person, introduced in, I believe, Missy Series 2, so again, kind of having multiple ranges kind of on the top. This kind of, obviously marking Christopher Eccleston's first ever multi-Doctor story, because he's never had one before, and kind of this is the closest Once and Future gets to a multi-Doctor story in the conventional sense, having them all there at the same time. Obviously they are all the same person, which might crop up in another episode, another release that I talk about in this episode, but kind of as two separate Doctors kind of crashing into each other figuratively and literally in this sense. Kind of a good one. People don't seem to like it too much. Again, kind of I'm an extremely positive Big Finish listener. Kind of I'll only listen to obviously to ranges and releases that I want to. I'm not going to listen to all the releases, so so I don't tend to listen to that. But obviously I really know Christopher Eccleston's Ninth Doctor, as well as Gina McGee's Lumiat. I know those characters quite well. Liv Chenka a little. No, I hadn't heard a Liv audio by the time Once and Future Time Lord Immemorial released. Oh no, I had, because she was in she was in one of the Ninth Doctor audios that I talked about, Flat Pack in Hidden Depths, whenever that was released. So I did kind of know. Yes, that was obviously the only kind of thought that I knew was kind of what was in there, kind of what I knew about Liv. And then David Warner's Doctor, this was the only, and still to this day, only audio featuring his Doctor that I've listened to. Nice to hear a new incarnation of the Doctor, even if it is a bit more complicated than that. But now we're on to kind of the 7th release of Once and Future, which was marketed as the end of the Once and Future range in its current form, and I will get on that later. But this was also the final Once and Future release released in 2023, and that was titled Once and Future: The Union, which was released in October 2023, written by Matt Fitton, obviously released the same month as Time Lord Immemorial. I don't know if it was always the plan to release those two in the same month, or they planned to release one earlier that started April, or go into November, and maybe with the 60th anniversary specials that kind of they couldn't. Maybe it was the rights thing, who knows. But let's read the synopsis. The Doctor responds to a distress call from his granddaughter Susan, taking him to the Diamond Array, a huge multi-dimensional space station. Once there, his instability increases as the 4th and 8th Doctors discover the Array's terrible purpose. Meanwhile, River Song has made a deadly alliance to try to save her husband, and the truth about the Doctor's degeneration will finally be revealed. This episode was recorded on the 19th of November 2021, so again, kind of similar to Time Lord Immemorial, just under 2 years. And this episode has got the biggest cast of all the Once and Future episodes. Now this does actually spoil some of the Doctors that are in the episode, but we're in recap, so it's spoilers, so it's fine. So we have Paul McGann as the 8th Doctor, Tom Baker as the 4th Doctor, Carol Ann Ford as Susan, Alex Kingston as River Song, Coraline Baker as the 6th Doctor, Jonathan Carley as the War Doctor, Peter Davison as the 5th Doctor, Jacob Dudman as the 11th and 12th Doctors, Rufus Hound as the Monk, Sylvester McCoy as the 7th Doctor, Stephen Noonan as the 1st Doctor, David Tennant as the 10th Doctor, Tim Treloar as the 3rd Doctor, and Michael Troughton as the second Doctor, Deep Breath. Told you there was a long list. So before I do spoil the events of Once and Future the Union, here's the trailer.
Degeneration, an enforced mystery tour through all of my lives.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, Once and Future, The Union.
Fighting it so long, I can't hold things together anymore.
Ah, it's happened again, hasn't it?
Oh, this is a pretty pickle. Those forays into my future disrupting my entire existence.
Intolerable! Utterly intolerable!
Miss Song, it's you.
Professor, River Song.
My entire self adrift on my time stream. I've been better.
An old, reliable...
Moving into position.
Ah, teeth and curls. This should be fun.
Target identified.
Grandfather, what are you doing here?
Oh no, it can't be.
I will set this universe in stone.
You'll kill us all.
Basically, we're the two people in the universe best placed to help the Doctor.
And are you going to kill me?
I could watch you suffer all eternity long. And I will.
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
Ooh, jammy Dodger. Here, bit dusty, but you can pick off the fluff.
That was the trailer for Once and Future the Union, which kind of featured most of the Doctors that I read in that cast list, which I'll get to in a second. But kind of again, this is kind of the finale of Once and Future, kind of that 7-episode arc. Obviously, there is an extra release, which I will get to, obviously after this one. But kind of, yeah, obviously kind of the main, so on the cover, it says full cast audio drama starring Paul McGann, Tom Baker, Carol Ann Ford and Alex Kingston. If they'd written all the Doctors that appeared in it, apart from Spoil It, number one, because I think they weren't added until the day the episode was released. Yeah, it would have covered the entire screen. So yes, that's not why, but kind of most of the Doctors that have been featured in Once and Future appearing, as well as the 11th and 12th Doctors making cameos as well. Obviously by Jacob Dudman. Obviously now in 2026, we've got Miles Taylor as Big Finish's 11th Doctor and John Coleshaw as Big Finish's 12th Doctor. So kind of, yeah, a lot's changed in 3 years. So yeah, kind of it's nice that they've kind of, I do like that Once and Future, yes, they were recorded a lot in advance, especially the Martian Invasion of Planetoid 50, as well as kind of Past Lives as well, was recorded quite early, and then some of the others were covered a bit later on. I'm glad I wasn't that producer that or had to sort out the scheduling for that would have done my head in. But yeah, kind of it was a great conclusion to Once and Future, and to have all of the Doctors that Big Finish could use at the time. And by the time the 70th rolls around, obviously you could add the 13th and fugitive Doctors to that already, and who knows if David Tennant's 14th Doctor or Ncuti Gatwa's 15th Doctor make appearances in the next 7.5 years before the next anniversary. But yeah, obviously, as I said, there was a bonus Once and Future release, which we had to wait over a year between Once and Future the Union, which was released in October 2023, to Once and Future Coda the Final Act, which was released in November 2024 and was written by Tim Foley and has the following synopsis. The Time War. Dealing with the repercussions of degeneration, the Doctor has a limited window of time to evade capture, recruit old allies, wage a war and find out what's really going on. A warrior is being hunted by a mysterious stranger in a TARDIS. A rogue agent has been assigned a mission to eliminate a dangerous foe. This is a fight between a war criminal and a fugitive, a fight between Doctors. This episode was recorded on the 1st of February 2023, which was, I will get to in a second, but does star Joe Martin as the fugitive Doctor. This was actually during the production of Joe Martin's first box set, first Fugitive Doctor box set, which became Most Wanted, which only had to wait a matter of weeks between Coda the Final Act from Once and Future to that being released. We also have Jonathan Carley as the War Doctor, obviously previously appearing in Once and Future: The Union. Lisa Bauman as Bernie Summerfield, and that is it for the main cast. So before I do spoil the events of Once and Future: Coda the Final Act, here's the trailer.
You have 15 hours to apprehend him.
15 hours. Love a countdown.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, Once and Future, the Final Act.
But what's she after? What does she want? Is there a price on my head?
I need background. Who is he? And what has he done?
He's a war criminal. One who has corrupted Earth's timeline, destroyed the final gallery, invaded the very hall of Time Lord Immemorial.
You have got to be kidding me.
You must be Vienna.
The place is called Vienna, so smart guess.
And I have no idea who you are.
Professor Summerfield? Bernice? But you can call me Benny. We're very good friends in some life or another.
I require your armed forces for a battle.
And where is this battle?
It is vital we arm ourselves.
Ford? You kidding me?
This is ridiculously dangerous.
These villains have cannons of light.
Somebody's attempting a time ram.
They've played us for fools, haven't they?
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
No matter how calmly my day starts, it always ends with running.
That was the trailer for Once and Future: Coda the Final Act, and this release was an interesting one because kind of Once and Future had been gone over a year, and then there was this release that was announced ages ago. We just didn't know who was in it, and it was like, because Jodie Whittaker had been announced to be joining Big Finish by this point, so it was like, is the 13th Doctor going to be appearing in it? Is Jacob Dudman's Doctor's going to appear in it? Is it was like, well, what's it going to look like? Because for ages, because obviously as if you're a regular fan of Big Finish and check the news or the announcements when they are announced that I discuss, they were announced over time. They're not all announced at once usually. So kind of with this, it was because it was a standalone release, or we were led to believe that kind of it kind of was like, who's in it, because it didn't need to follow on from that. And obviously kind of the first 7 Once and Future releases kind of featured every single Doctor that Big Finish had access to, but we didn't know by this point that the Fugitive Doctor had joined Big Finish until this announcement was made. Because this would have been before. Well, we knew the Fugitive Doctor's series was announced, that was it, but we just didn't know when it was releasing, so we didn't even consider that. But yeah, Jo Martin, this was the first audio featuring Jo Martin's Fugitive Doctor to be released, which kind of reintroduces us to Jo Martin's Fugitive Doctor. Obviously, Jonathan Carley has been playing the War Doctor for years, and Lisa Bauman, Bernie Summerfield, well, she's been playing Bernice longer than Big Finish have had the rights to make Doctor Who audios. That just, it's nearly 28 years this year, so that's a lot. But yeah, kind of amazing audio as well, and kind of this is the closest, like Time Lord and more when I was talking about Big Finish, not Big Finish, multi-Doctor stories, this is kind of we get, but it isn't a multi-Doctor story in the traditional sense, because the Fugitive and War Doctors are kind of fighting each other and are tricked, and then they become allies at the end with Bernice. And obviously the Fugitive Doctor's reaction to seeing Bernice, obviously she has no idea who Bernice is yet, so it's kind of one of those things that only Doctor Who could do. But yeah, that's it for my recap of Once and Future. I'm not going to go through every single release that's coming up featuring all the other Doctors, so we'll just go in chronological order. So the first Doctor I mentioned briefly, we'll go for the 8 Doctors. So the classic Doctors all have releases coming out in 2026. The War Doctor the same. The Fugitive Doctor is featuring in the first episode of Sontarans vs. Rootons, which when this episode has released on audio will have already been released, but obviously when I'm recording this episode it hasn't. The 9th Doctor will continue his adventures every 2 months with Rose, running all the way up to June 2027. Who else? 11th and 12th Doctor Adventures. We're getting more of those this year as well. So yeah, kind of. And Bernice, who knows what the future of that looks like. But yeah, kind of that's it. So let me know what you thought of all the Once and Future releases I talked about in this episode. If you listened to them, what you thought of them, my recap if you didn't. And without further ado, I will see you in a future episode of the podcast. See you then. Goodbye.